Welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz. I am your host, Baxter E. Hall, and today is one of our So What's the Question editions with Tiana Starks.
Hello.
Hello. So, What's the Question is where we go beyond uh, what's black and white and really get into the nuances of things because we like to think. And it's not always so cut and dry. As a matter of fact, it never is. So when we started our podcast a couple of years ago, that's really what we wanted to do was deal with nuance and have some conversations that necessarily didn't have a nice, button at the end of it, right? Because these are ever evolving, dynamic sort of topics and things that are important to us. So welcome back. I want to shout out Guy Got Me. Tiana and I are both wearing our hoodies. Appreciate all the folks from Guy Got Me, Trav, Corn, and the crew. So let's jump into this thing. We've wasted a lot of time today on things that haven't been recorded. So now we need to probably have a little substance. Substance that's suitable for others to review. So what we decided to talk about was really sort of leadership, right? And then you have some very specific things that you were thinking about. This week for me, I've talked about mentorship, but I've been subject to a few different leadership styles as far as um, at work with some of the groups and associations that I'm a part of, and even my own nonprofit that I'm working on, right? And everybody's style is just a little different. As you guys start your new venture, Tiana, and you are, a business owner and employer, right? What are some of the things that you think is important to leadership, and what do you try to implement and make sure you use in your style, your leadership style?
So my leadership style, I think, is well. I was gonna say it's evolving, but it's always evolving because people are different, and you have to approach every individual kind of with the support that they need from a leadership perspective. But for me, one of the things that I am working on right now is just being more conscious of how I am communicating with my team. And what I mean is allowing space for people to improve instead of you. I mean, you know me. Anybody that knows me probably knows I tend to be more like really direct and kind of I have a vision in my head for how things will look. And I don't think that I'm not the type of person that thinks that I have the only way to get there, but I do want to get to a specific place. I don't really care how people get there. It's just in my brain, I have a space. Just thinking about ways I can ask more questions and kind of allow team members to think things through more and to um, kind of go on a journey with my team to get to the best solution instead of starting with a place in my brain where I want to see us end up. So I've just been trying to be more intentional about asking questions like, okay, so how do you feel about this? I mean, not necessarily how do you feel about this, but are you on a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable are you with moving forward? Because versus how do you feel about this? Because it gives people parameters to be able to respond without them feeling like they're being put on the spot. So like just trying to be more cognizant about how I'm communicating and offering people space to be honest and move forward and grow.
It's funny, and as you know, in a sales role, and me being in sales for so long, it's important for me to make sure that we salespeople is always like ask open-ended questions, right? You gotta make sure that you don't answer the question for someone. You don't give them this multiple choice, and they could be thinking something completely different than what the choices that you gave them, but it's the easy way out. Uh, so asking open-ended questions is typically the route to go. But then there are occasions where you do want a yes or no, or you want to give them some parameters so that you can get a better idea of things. And so I like that thought, 1 to 5. Tell me why you use, because even when we were trading text, you mentioned 1 to 5 versus 1 to 10. Tell me why you went with 1 to 5 when you're getting asking for feedback versus 1 through 10.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't, it wasn't like a super conscious decision. I just thought of like a rating and
You thought
1 to
about
5,
what?
like a 5-star rating. And so 1 to 5 seemed appropriate. But I guess if I were to think a little bit deeper, I don't know. I don't know if there's a difference between 1 to 5 and 1 to 10.
I like it. I like it because I think it's like a survey, right?
Yeah.
Typically it's like, 1 and 2 ain't good, right? 3 is like a super safe, but you should be like 1 to 5 with 3 not being an option. 1 to 4.
1 to
But
4.
it's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like the thought of just trying to get a really good consensus of like somebody's feeling about something. I was a part of a conversation this week around manhood and like leadership in general, and there's so many themes that make sense in every aspect of leadership. Whether you're leading a family, you're leading a team, and that vulnerability was something that continued to come up in this conversation that I was having with the guys, was allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And you spoke to that, Tiana, when you said, we can kind of figure this thing out together. It doesn't have to be my vision per se. You need to have buy-in from your team, right? Working with HR people so much in my role, in the sales role, they understand people probably better than anyone else in the org. And so they understand that that's where the power is. And it's so important to get buy-in. From a sales standpoint, we think about buy-in differently, but from a leading people standpoint, whatever vision you're trying to accomplish, if you don't have the people on board, it's not going to be what you envision. So you may as well get their input, and you guys can sort of co-create this thing and co-produce it, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Even like, having been an employee, how it feels when somebody, the difference between how it feels when your superior or supervisor or whatever you want to call them cares about your input versus just wanting to see an outcome.
Right. Where people ask for opinions but they really just shooting you down. So they try to browbeat you until you go, you know what? You got it, man. They're asking for input, but they really don't want you. They want to be able to say that they asked for it, but they don't really
Right.
want. They don't want anything different than what they have. So, you also talked about leadership and asking, um, how can leadership, or how can this be improved, right? So if you ask the question, how do you feel about this approach or this project this approach for this project? And then, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, and then is that follow-up question like something that says, okay, well, you're at a 4. What would make it a 5? Is that sort of like the next step?
With that question, I mean, they weren't in like sequential order. They're just things I was thinking about, like how can I state something better than I would? Like in saying, does that make I always say this, am I making sense? Like, and I don't feel like that's a good way to communicate what I'm actually trying to say, like trying to understand, am I missing something? And I don't think that gets that across. So I was thinking how, if I ask, how can this be improved? It gives the person an opportunity to be included, and it gets me to my answer that I'm looking for.
Yeah. I'll say kudos to you for even having open mind about it, and understanding that there may be some potential. There may be areas for improvement.
Yeah.
Just because you're the boss doesn't mean you should always that you're always right. And if you can't empower your people to add their opinions and sort of flavor to things, what do you really want?
Right.
You want a bunch of robots to carry out something? It's like, no, in the world of marketing and branding, and having these creative minds, it's part of what makes them them.
Right.
You got to give them that room. You got to open that. You got to give them a large enough flower pot to grow into that role, right? If you restrict them, you're taking away their powers. Why you have them on the team if you can't properly, utilize the gifts that they have and the thoughts and all that.
And they're not going to want to be there for long. So, like, it's not going to work out. Like, we're all trying to grow, especially at the stage where we're at right now. It's important that people who we bring on understand that we're all growing together. And the people that we bring on right now, we want to see them grow into leadership roles, so that, as we bring on more people, even under them, they can cultivate new skills and nurture new talent. So
Yeah, yeah. I spoke with a prospective client today, and she's a business owner, and started her own thing in 18 after working for folks for years, and the rate at which she's growing, it was like so inspiring,
that's
you
awesome.
know and it's exactly what she wants. It wasn't like, man, I don't know how we got here. It's like, no, like, we got more work to do. And she just seems so focused. And I think that's even important, right? I mean, can you speak to the importance of knowing what type of, like, organization you want? If you want a very lean one, if you want, you know, contract folks versus full time, like, talk about like understanding that and kind of seeing that, but while you're building the bricks and not stumbling upon something maybe you hadn't planned for.
Yeah, I think that that is super important. And it's interesting because it's something that honestly, my partner and I, we have different perspectives on. So coming together because of the way that we built our businesses before we merged, coming together, that was like a point of, it wasn't a point of contention. Like we don't really have any strong, like we haven't had any like really clashes, but it was a point of just kind of understanding, trying to figure out what is going to be best for this new entity, because how do I say this? Because it is like the type of people that you bring into the organization is going to define the culture of the organization forward. And I guess, like you were saying, like the speed at which you grow. For me, I don't feel like I'm answering the question because I don't know how much I want to talk about internally how we're structured. But I mean, I do think that it is, it's super important to have those types of discussions before you start bringing people on, even if you're just having the discussions with yourself. If you're writing it down and defining what does this look like, or what do these different, what do the different business functions or different departments within the organization look like, because it could be different within different departments. Like for us, we have this product called Digital Rack. And basically what we do is help e-commerce retailers get their products onto their website quickly and efficiently. For me, like a lot of what I do is digital based, but it's more around the marketing, around getting the products in front of people, not necessarily putting it on. So that's the thing that Yolanda brought to the table. And we need physical bodies in spaces in order to be able to do that. So that is a need for that particular product. But when it comes to things like search engine optimization or content creation, we don't necessarily need a person in a spot to do that. We can find contractors all over. So sometimes it's defining, what do you want the organization to look and feel like? And then what are the needs of this particular business sector or segment?
Yeah. Yeah, and setting those expectations with the people that you recruit and bring on, right? So that they know what to expect.
Yeah.
So, you know, how many times have you walked into a role when they were recruiting you, they told you one thing, and then you get there and they're like, yeah, well, you know, we're working towards that. We ain't there yet, you know, and it's like, man, I thought it was one thing, and here it is, something else. So what is the question that we are trying to answer today, T?
I don't know. We wasted so much time. We got
I, I think so. The question, one of the questions is, you know, how important are expectations to you and the people that you know, how important is it to set expectations? How many expectations do you set up front with with yourself and, you know, your business partners or team members? Like, how much of that should be outlined and how much of that should be sort of open to interpretation or open for, you know, for some
shaping.
fluidity?
Yeah. I think one of the questions is, how can you improve yourself in order to improve the whole or the organization or whatever you are a part of? Because for me, I mean, like when we're talking about leadership, just looking at myself and my leadership style so that I can get more out of my people is a thing that I'm working on.
I like that. And part of the conversation that I had about leadership in general, and I heard I never heard it said this way, was validation equals growth.
Mm,
And so
yeah,
we were talking about our children specifically, but it's about everybody in your life, right? Validating them, showing them that they matter, and showing them that what they do, their contributions matter, will empower them and encourage them to do more of that.
yeah,
Right. So I think it's important to validate, not falsely, but when things have been done right, we need to make sure that we recognize that and give them the proper validation, because we don't always know if we're doing a good job or not. And even if we think we are, it's nice to hear from the folks
yeah,
that matter, right?
yeah, very true.
So uh, that's the question. Some of the questions for this episode. Yes, thank you for your time. I wish that more of our conversation would have been recorded, but hey, this is a nice quick one, but still some good jewels in here. So appreciate you and your insight, Tiana, and let's do it again next week.
For sure. I'll put
All
on my.
right. Well, thanks for watching or listening wherever you guys are, and until next time, peace.
Okay.